Hello and welcome to Brand Politics on iBrandTV. I am Benneth Joseph, and as always on the program, we analyze and put into context all of the political activities playing out in Nigeria, in Africa, and around the world. In Nigeria, it's been a very difficult and challenging couple of weeks, especially as Nigerians battle the issue of police brutality, an end to bad governance, an end to corruption. The protest started off peacefully and later on turned violent and bloody, and in some parts of the country, tribal. These events playing out in Nigeria has raised a lot of questions, and political and public affairs analysts have been lending their voices to the conversation. Joining me now in the studio to put the issue in context is Dr. Jide Johnson, a public affairs analyst. He joins me now to share his perspective on all of the questions that are coming up as a result of the activities that have played out in Nigeria in the past couple of weeks. Dr. Jide Johnson, it's a pleasure to have you on the program.
It's nice to be with you, Bennett, and nice having me on your program, and I'm glad to be here.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jide Johnson. Let's dive right into it. The SARS protests, that was where it all began. What is your take on all that have played out ever since the start of the movement?
Well, some of the challenges we have in Nigeria is to just look at outcomes and not look at causes and effect. There is cause and effect, and in most cases we go to diagnosis and not prognosis. If anyone should say that it is the SARS protest or campaign against police brutality or the call for good governance by the protesters is what has led us to have what we are witnessing now, we are just begging the question. We are committing what we call reductionism, in the sense that there are deeper issues that have happened, that are happening, issues, social, political, and economic issues that we ought to deal with that we have not dealt with, and the SARS just served as the trigger. Issues that analysts, economists, political scientists, religious leaders, traditional rulers have identified as some of the things that we need to deal with before we get to where we are concerning the police brutality. Campaign which led to that massacre on 10/20/20, which has thrown Nigeria into the front burner of attention globally with respect to how the state reacts to peaceful protest from its citizen. I don't think it's the SARS protest that
has
actually
brought us to where we are.
Because you have the issue of poverty, you have the issue of bad governance, you have the issue of disconnect between the governed and the governed. You have the issue of students being at home as a result of ASU strike, even after the end of the pandemic. You also have the issues of the pandemic. Virtually everyone, 99.9% of those of us that are living now have never witnessed any situation of staying at home for 7 months and not doing anything. So these are issues that we need to look at beyond the protest and the issue of governance. How do government relate with the citizenry?
Now let's talk about how the government has responded so far to the protest. Are you disappointed?
Highly disappointed, completely disappointed, and highly irritated by government action. You see, I tell people, we are not in a democracy. We just have a civilian administration. The fact that you have civilian running your government does not mean that you are in a democracy, because in democracy there's this saying that majority will always have their way and the minority will have their say. Are you getting my point? Majority will have their way, minority will have their say. One of the beauty elements of democracy is freedom of expression. And if you look at it, there have been various attempts to stifle opposition. You see, one of the requirements for a democratic society is party system. Now, if you look at the structure, the organization of the political parties we have in Nigeria, even within those parties, do they uphold democratic tenets? Do they allow opposing views or contesting views within the party to thrive or to suppress it? I get my point. So these are some of the things that we need to look at. Let's take the issue of the protest and government reaction. Prior to the curfew being imposed, or shortly after the curfew was imposed, I sent a tweet, it's there in the public domain, to the governor that is the face of Lagos, is the brand of Lagos, that whatever happens concerning the curfew, he will take the blame. The federal government will not take the blame. He will take the blame because a lot of Lagosians have left their respective home and you are imposing curfew during the course of the day. And that curfew does not solve problem. There are ways in which you deal with curfew. For example, what type of training do Nigerian police, do Nigerian army has to do and how to deal with protest in a democratic society? How? What type of training? How do you combat protest or engage protesters in a democracy, in a democratic society? Now, by the training and the design of the military, they are meant to suppress any form of internal and external aggression to the nation. So their responsibility is to preserve the territorial integrity of Nigeria. Do we train our military to understand that when they are called into the society, they are no longer the military, they are now the National Guard? In America, in the United States of America, they call them what? The National Guard. And then what type of equipment do you take to quell protest? Do they even have the equipment? Do they have the resources? Do they have the training? Do they have the temperament? Do they have the personality? So when the governor said, have you ever seen it in protest whereby the police, even in the United States, they go to the protest with guns? Have you ever seen one?
Not at all.
Do the police have anti-riot gears? Do they have anti-riot vehicles? Are you getting my point? Now, you are sending an ill-equipped and ill-trained personnel with guns to go and
manage a protest.
What do you have set them up for a catastrophe.
Now, some of us watched with shock when the protests moved from being peaceful to violent, and in some places tribal, and in some places people lost their lives. I mean, you've already made reference to the event of Tuesday night, the 20th of October, 2020. What went wrong? It all started peacefully, but what went wrong?
We saw, prior to that fateful day, how thugs were loaded in buses and attacked peaceful protesters in Alausa. We saw footage from Abuja where SUVs were used. Who are those that are responsible for this? Has anybody been arrested? Was anybody arrested
Not at
prior
all.
to that?
Not at all.
And who are those that are the benefactors of quote-unquote thugs? Who are their benefactors? Who are their godfathers? Who are their sponsors? Have you ever seen any electoral offender being prosecuted? Those that disrupted the electoral process. Now you're not talking about peaceful protest. You see, we are playing the ostrich in Nigeria. And some of us have said it, that we are sitting on a keg of gunpowder. When you hire young men and you use them for electoral purposes, you equip them for that purpose to disrupt the democratic process. Once you get to power and you don't have anything to do with them, the resources you have given to them are the same resources that are going to make your state and your ungovernable. So we accept that we want to deceive ourselves. I ask you this question. In every local government, you have DSS official. In every local government. One of the key ways of dealing with security is intelligence. What is the level of our intelligence gathering? You have DSS, you have police, you have NDCDC, various intelligence agencies, and then we are not able to gather intelligence.
Does this make an argument for the state police conversation going on?
Yes, there's no doubt about that. For example, where I live in the community for more than 40 years. I know the community. I can tell you the trouble spot. Where I've worked there for many. I can tell you the trouble spot in Oba. I can tell you the trouble spot because it's my familiar terrain. So, the area commander of Oba, the DPO of Okera police station, the DPO of various police stations should know because they have their operatives. But a situation whereby you have a government within a government, I have never seen in any society where there is another institution that collects levies, revenues, and rates outside of the government except in Nigeria. And except, let me talk about my state, except in Lagos State. Is NLTW a government institution? Now, we all take buses, we all drive across the state. They are lord and master unto themselves, except going to play the ostrich. And that's why we have found ourselves where we have found ourselves.
Now, talking about holding people accountable, looking at the history of our country, now Lagos, amongst other states, have really the heat of the crisis that has broken out as a result of what played out at the Lekki toll gate. Lagos has witnessed a lot of destruction of state property, individual properties as well. But then again, let's look at the lives that were lost at that night, 20th of October 2020 at the Lekki toll. Amnesty International has come out to confirm that at least 2 people died that night and many others injured. Considering the history of our country, do you think that these victims of that shooting by the members of the Nigerian military have any chance at all to find justice within the system?
Yeah, the life of a Nigerian is not what being sacrificed on the altar of us doing what we are supposed to do. One of the major cardinal principles of taking an oath of office is for you to protect the lives and property of an average Nigerian. And there's no doubt that this issue is the front burner of global attention. We've seen various protests by Nigerians across the globe. We've seen global stars like Lewis Hamilton drawing attention to this particular. This will not go away. I can assure you. Not even in the era of social media, whereby power has been taken away from the powerful and power has been given to
the people.
To the people, and the voiceless now have a voice via the social media. So this issue is not going away because it's unimaginable that I asked this question: what is the strategic importance of Lekki toll gate? It's not Aso Rock, it's not Lagos State House of Assembly, it's not Nash. Even if it's Aso Rock, it's the people's house. Even if it's Lagos house, it is the people's house, because in a democracy, the mandate comes from the people. So I have asked, what is the strategic importance of Lekki toll gate that will require the deployment of the military there? I'm asking. I've not been able to wrap my head around it. Is it because of economic interest? Or social interest?
I mean, there were reports that the Lagos state government had lost about over 200 million naira within the space of that protest.
I'm trying not to think too much about it because I don't want to have a mental health issue. Because what's the strategic? I'm asking this question. What is the strategic importance of Lekki toll gate that will warrant the deployment of
the military?
And I think anybody can ask the governor the question, can ask the military command the question, and can ask the commander-in-chief of the Federal Republic that question. Because I don't know the strategic importance of Lekki toll gate that warrant the loss of life of a Nigerian. Do you think that if that happened in a civilized clime, what do you think would have happened to the president, to the governor, or to the You know, for appearing with the president of the United States of America in a church after a riot in Washington, the chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff of the American military had to push back, because as military we respect civilian authority, because I don't understand the strategic importance of Lekki that warrant, but this will not go away.
But as much as we push for justice for those who probably got themselves injured or who lost their lives as a result of the presence of the military at the Lekki toll gate on that fateful night, how much damage has that event done to the history of our country?
No, it has not. It has not. It has not damaged the history of our country. It has raised a consciousness and an awareness. It has emboldened the youths, the young, and the old on the need to hold on to their right, the freedom of expression, the freedom of association, the need for them to make a demand for good governance. You could hear in the speech of the president said, "We have heard your voice loud and clear." Said, "We have heard your voice loud and clear." It's clear. You could see the aftermath of it. Now, you could see although I do not approve some of the behaviors, in fact, most of the behaviors of the protest action of some unscrupulous element that tries to create a negative picture around the objective and the goals of the protest. But you could see some of the victims, apart from innocent Nigerians, of the onslaught, of the anger of the public. It's a deep-seated anger. The people are not happy with the political class. The people are not happy with the way and manner security agencies treat. Just yesterday we saw one we saw a clip at Oshodi where a military guy brought out his belt and was beating a woman because the woman said he jumped the queue on an ATM. Are you getting my point? So it has awakened a consciousness, and I think that moving forward, every Nigerian knows that power resides with the people and not in the barrel of the gun. And in democracy, there are consequences for election and there are consequences for action. And I'm sure the government will learn from what has happened. You see, where have you ever seen that government becomes accountable? This protest has made government to become accountable. Do you know how many interviews the state governor has granted? How many press conferences?
As a result of the events that have played out.
As a result of the event that has played out concerning that shooting Black Tuesday. So, which is a week ago.
Now we'll take a break, and when we return, I would like us to look at the conversation around restructuring in Nigeria, because at some point we realized that it was no longer a conversation about the end of police brutality, but there were other issues that were coming up as a result of the SARS protest. We'll take a short break, and when we return, we'll pick it up from there. If you're just joining us, this is Brand Politics on iBrandTV, and we are looking at the SARS protest, restructuring in Nigeria, and the state of the nation at this time. We'll take a quick break, and when we return, we'll continue the conversation with Dr. Jide Johnson, the public affairs analyst who lends his voice on the issues playing out in the country at this time. Stay with us.